I am resident of Colorado for YouTube, Joel Saints, joined by the author of the Dark Shadows Daybook and the Dark Shadows Daybook Unbound, which is on Kindle. You can get it on Amazon. Mr. Patrick McCray, how are you, sir?
Oh, hey, Jewel, how are you? How
I'm,
nice of you to drop in. It's great to see you.
I'm good, brother. How are you?
I'm fine, and I am clothed from the waist down.
That makes one of us. Anyway. Oh my god.
We've always wondered.
Yeah. I'm sure somebody's always wondered. But we're here to discuss.
Guthrie, yes.
We're here to discuss more 1841 parallel time. This episode's really interesting. David Selby does the voiceover.
Very southern sounding too. He's more southern sounding than normal in this voiceover.
Yeah, in the voiceover, but
like a Rick Cracker head.
When you notice when he's acting when the camera's on, that's southern. It like you don't hear it no more.
Have you ever seen that footage? This is true. This is not a McCray Whopper. The footage on YouTube of Laura Parker when she's filming a parallel time scene, and they do a lot of stopping. It's the scene where she's about to revive Alexis or Angelique or something like that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, she sounds very southern. Yeah.
Oh, hold on. I accidentally triggered Alexa. Alexa, stop. She's talking about the Serengeti. You hear her real accent.
Yep.
And she's not happy.
And I'm sort of wondering, was it because of because again, they're filming on a set.
Yeah.
On a soundstage. I'm sort of wondering because this, to my knowledge, this is only her second time in like a mausoleum sort of texture, and it looks a lot different than the Barnabas one that they were used to, and I'm sort of wondering if it's the way the sound's bouncing off of the walls.
That it creates a southern accent?
Well,
I'm sure.
I'm not saying that she's not using her southern accent, but I'm also sort of wondering because it was different from. It doesn't look like they used the same mausoleum that they used for Barnabas, is what I'm saying, obviously. So I'm sort of wondering if the way the sound was, and it was just her accent was bouncing off the walls. So when she heard it, there was nothing really she could do.
Well, no, she's not that way in the scene.
Oh, okay.
She's that way when she's talking to, Henry Kaplan or Leela Swift or whoever about the guy moving the cue cards too fast. She's really mad. It's on YouTube. It's very funny, but I would not want to be the cue card guy. She was not in $1 million mood at that point.
I wouldn't be either because so they didn't use the teleprompter; they were using the cue cards in that scene.
Apparently, or maybe it was the teleprompter was moving too fast. Somehow the words were moving too fast, and she wasn't able to keep track of them, or something like that. I don't know. But Laura's having a bad day.
Did they ever have the teleprompter just shut off on them?
I don't know if they ever had the teleprompter on. Oh, no, that's ridiculous. I'm sure every disaster, 1,225 episodes, every disaster that could have happened. My favorite teleprompter thing, though, I love this. It's an acting moment that I call the Frid Surge. Do you know the Frid Surge?
No.
The Frid Surge is where he's looking at another actor or something like that. He's looking at something on the set. We see him kind of in profile. And Barnabas's speech gets slower and more halting and almost Shatnerian. And then the camera cuts to where he's looking at the camera. Or he turns away from the person. They do that thing on Dark Shadows. They like to talk to each other with their backs to each other, like one of them back to the other. And suddenly his speech picks up very quickly because he's looking at the teleprompter. He can see what his lines are.
Yeah.
And I call that the Frid Surge, which was also a flavor of Mountain Dew recently.
They often said that Jonathan was always searching for the teleprompter, but so was Joan Bennett though too. So it's like, but Joan Bennett would also help Jonathan. I remember Jonathan Frid giving an interview where he said Joan Bennett would help him with his lines.
Joan Bennett was the ultimate being. What a great lady. We just hang around talking about how great Joan Bennett is. But let's talk about the episode.
Finally, Grayson Hall's character, Julia Collins, returns, as she says, from the village. And it's like, you've been in the village this long.
It's a prisoner reference.
Really?
She's been in the village from The Prisoner, and she escaped from the Patrick McGowan TV show The Prisoner.
Oh, very nice.
You ever seen that show, Jewel?
No, I never have.
Sweet Midgets. It's only 17 episodes. Oh, Jewel, it's like one of the greatest science fiction series ever made.
Is it on Tubi?
It might be. Hell, I'll send you the DVDs. You would love it. Oh my goodness. If you've never seen The Prisoner, there would be so much for you to talk about. It's got humor, it's got action, it's got adventure, and it's really thoughtful. Oh man, you would have a blast with The Prisoner.
Cool. So Grayson Hall's Julia Collins returns from the village, and she sees Joan Bennett, and she's talking about that Melanie may have the plague. And because David Selby's upstairs staying with her, he's trying to find out what he's trying to find out if she really does have the plague. And so Flora,
this turns Gabriel into Anthony Fauci, as I recall, because he's the only one concerned about the fact that Quentin's probably contagious now.
Yeah, that's a great point. He is the only one that brings that up in this episode.
He's hopping around the set trying to get away from him. And everyone else is just like, masks? Who needs masks? Ha ha ha.
When he started doing it, he sort of reminded me of Muhammad Ali a bit. He's dancing around.
He reminds me of Muhammad Ali no matter what.
Yeah. But I love Christopher Pennock's line too in this, where him and Morgan are having a confrontation because during the voting process of voting the woman in, when it came to Christopher Pennock's character to vote, I love David Selby's Quentin Collins. He looks over, he goes, Gabriel, I want to hear you vote no. And he votes yes. And I love how David Selby, he looked like Stone Cold Steve Austin there for a moment. It looked like he was going to stop a mud hole in Gabriel and walk him dry.
So now, would that make Quentin a baby face, or would that make him the opposite of a baby face? I guess an elderly butt or whatever. Right? Is that the opposite of a baby face?
There's a baby face and there's a heel.
Okay, I guess the heel's lower than the So is he the baby face or the heel here?
He's the baby face for sure, because I love this interaction here, because once he does, Quentin grabs Gabriel and he's like, I could just kill you. It's so you're agreeing with Quentin. And later on, I love how Gabriel is trying to say he says to Morgan about, oh, you just didn't want the women in because it's your wife. Actually, no. Gabriel said very, 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 very early on in this arc that he never wanted the woman to participate in the lottery, even before he married Catherine.
Sure.
But this, I want to be clear to anyone who's going to watch this. This is not an error by the writers. Gabriel's just generally drunk most of the time, so he gets weird.
He is.
Did you? Here's something I wanted to ask you. So, Patrick, do you have a flask?
Oh yeah.
Joan.
Yes, it's like a D&D thing. You know, it's like I'm sort of racially bound to have a flask.
Joan Bennett's Flora Collins asked Gabriel, "Are you carrying a flask? Give it here." And I,
That out and I was like, all right, here.
yeah, I mean, here's a guy who has liquor hidden all over the house, and he,
If I directed the episode, because Dark Shadows would have been much funnier if I had directed it. If I had directed, he would have handed her the flask and she would have put it down. As she turned her back to put it down, he would have had another flask that he would have started nipping out of. And don't think that didn't occur to Christopher Pennock, because it's an obvious joke, because it's the only kind I come up with. And oh my God, it would have been so good. It would have been so good.
I'm sort of surprised that Dark Shadows didn't do that right then and there, because that's when I was I watched this episode 3 times back today, and when I was watching it, I'm thinking, I keep waiting for Christopher Pennock's Gabriel to just pull out another flask and drink from it.
It's true.
What did you think of Catherine, Laura Parker, in this episode, where she finally gets a say in the process, and her suggestion is right back to do not have the lottery.
Well, she's not from around those parts, so
Right.
she doesn't know the horrible things that happen when you don't have the lottery.
Right.
You know, I mean, she might be there for scratch offs if they had that.
She does. Now, I will say you're right, because she brings up the fact that no room is going to cure Melanie. The doctors have to decide what happens to Melanie. And I love that line, because Catherine is an optimist in every way. She's somebody who believes in hope.
And she's from the real world.
Yeah.
Where you don't, where, you trust doctors and so on. So she never get a job on Fox News. But she's from the real world. And she just thinks these people are crazy.
She does. Very early on in this arc, when Gabriel tells her about the room and stuff, and Catherine tells her sister Daphne, she's even still doubtful about the whole thing before the marriage ever occurs. So she never really believes in. She even says it many, many times to not only Morgan but to Quentin. Oh, these are just superstitious fools, and she's very constant with that.
She is, and so she marries into them. She has disparaging things to say about the core ontology of the family. Ergo, she must marry them.
It's
like it's like the wife of Michael Corleone.
yeah.
Who knows? It's a mafia family, marries right into it.
This feels like something straight out of DS9 that Cork would have done. Married somebody for their money. Not saying Catherine did that, and then find out there's a curse attached.
How much would you pay to be able to use deepfakes technology to put Armin Shimmerman as Quark into every scene of Angelique?
Every cent I have.
Okay, good. That's the proper answer. It's not a multiple choice. It's a quiz with a right answer and a wrong answer, and you answered correctly.
I kept thinking about that when I was watching this episode. I'm like, God, if you just put Cork in this episode.
I think about it with every episode.
Right. It's criminally good.
Who would Odo be?
Oh my God. Honestly, Odo would replace Mrs. Johnson.
I was hoping you would say that. Harry, I'm keeping my eye on you.
Yeah. He would be, instead of Harry snooping around, he'd be appearing in front of Harry. I'm watching you. I'm watching you.
So now, would Wei-Yun be Nicholas Blair?
Oh my God. You know what? Wei-Yun I would actually make Wei-Yun, just for the fun of it, Sam Evans.
This is really perverse. Oh, I like where you're going, because I would have had O'Brien as Sam Evans.
I would say O'Brien would have been cool as Sam Evans. I could have seen it, but I tell you who I would have, because O'Brien, the guy who plays O'Brien's a great actor too. But
Palamini.
yeah, I tell you who I would have had him as a Willie Loomis.
It just gets better and better and better.
He or like a J him either Willie or Jason. I think he could have did both, but
That
I
now you're
mean,
racially profiling because they're both Irish. And it comes back to my flask that I'm obligated to carry at all times. I get stopped by police occasionally. You want to make sure I have a flask on me. It's the only if you're Irish, yeah, that's there. I can't even say it. I can't even say it. You get pulled over by the cops and they throw you in jail if you don't have a flask on you. Well, your name's Patrick McCray. You can say these things.
oh my god. So I like how when David Selby's Quentin Collins comes down the steps and you don't see it, but he just enters the room. He announces that yes, Melanie has the plague, and all this had been built up in the episodes prior that she got when she had gotten sick after the seance, and she has the plague, which is why Flora is insisting on the lottery. What did you think of the? Did you suspect when you first watched Dark Shadows that Gabriel's going to vote the women in?
Because he's a feminist.
Really?
He's a feminist. That would have been my argument had I been, because I'm a weasel. And I would have said, look, it's going to be the 20th century at some point. We either have to be part of it or we have to be against it. I'm not going to be one of these white knight types. No, I'm gonna be a feminist, and time's up.
It's really interesting too because I believe it's Morgan early on in this arc. He says Quentin feels the same way I do, and so does Gabriel. And then the vote happens, and Gabriel votes the women in.
Why would he even assume he knew that Gabriel would do the right thing? What's going through his mind? Why is he speaking for Gabriel? That's like saying Elmer Fudd will be the first man to put down his gun. No.
It goes to show you how vulnerable and Morgan really is, and reliable, gullible really too. Morgan is to think here's Gabriel, the guy who gets more drunk than Steve Austin and the Sandman combined, and it just he'll vote no. But again, I love my favorite scene is David Selby looking over at Gabriel, looking over at Christopher Pennock, and going, Gabriel, I better hear no. It's so great, the face he makes too.
Gabriel's like, no, senor, no, it's not happening.
Right. What's really interesting too is Flora and Julia earlier on were willing to take part in the lottery before, because Julia kept looking to Flora like, are we going to really take part in the lottery? But once Flora is on board, once Flora goes yes, Julia follows right along. But the real deciding factor too, before Gabriel, is Catherine in this episode. And I love that Laura Parker gets that say where she goes, I vote with the women. I'm with them. We should be allowed to participate, which is really, even though she doesn't believe in it, she casts that vote.
Because she doesn't believe in it that she cast the vote. She knew what was in there. She would say, we're the fairer sex. Oh, I don't think so. No, not. No, leave us out. There's family wisdom. Don't want to argue with family wisdom. Leaving the women out. No, that's fine. We'll just mourn on the outside and listen to the screaming. It's okay, boys. You go ahead. We are the weaker sex in this case. Oh yes. Oh no, not going in the haunted room.
Do you think she's casting the vote hoping her name gets pulled so she thinks she can prove them wrong?
As I've often said, Laura Parker is the James Randi of this. She's the amazing Randi of these things. Yeah, I think she wants to just go, all right, I went in a stupid room. I inhaled some dust and coughed for a while, and that was it. and then Bramwell would say, I never inhaled.
He was too busy shouting at the microphone. But
that's Morgan.
Yeah. That's Morgan. Oh, sorry, Morgan.
Thanks for the mic. Is this microphone on?
Yeah, for sure. I love how too Flora does tell Julia Collins that they tried a seance and tried to contact the ghost of uh, Brutus Collins, but not they didn't get a hold of Brutus. They got a hold of somebody else. Brutus left his answer machine on. I am
They have
not
Brutus answering service.
Yeah, yeah.
I had a Ouija board out the other day, and just for fun, I was looking at it, and a friend of mine who's profoundly anti Ouija board came over and said, "What's this Ouija board doing out?" And I said, "Oh, I was making a long distance call. I forgot to hang up."
we don't have Bramwell yet. We don't have Bramwell in this episode, so Jonathan Fritz's character isn't in this episode. And they don't show Melanie at all because she's sick, which I like. And the reason it's Flora makes it clear, not only in this episode, in episodes prior when they were going to conduct the lottery, that Melanie would not take place. Melanie would not take part.
Yeah. Why don't they wait for Bramwell? Why doesn't anybody say, "Hey, wait, if I were Gabriel, I'd say, we need the women and the Canadian. We can't go without, we got to vote. Do the Canadians have to do this too?" Yes. Well, guess we got to wait. Sucks to be Melanie.
Yeah.
She's not real Collins anyway, so,
Well, too, they do this because she went in the room after Justin. So there is that. I mean, that is something that they really stuck to their guns with this arc, and I love them. I love the writers for it.
Justin knew where her car keys were.
Very, very.
Go back.
Who is there a character that what's something that maybe shocked you about this episode?
Shocked me.
Yes.
Shocked me. Wow. I shocked. I don't know if I was shocked by anything in it. I don't know if it was particularly transgressive, but I suspect something shocked you.
Yeah, actually, going back to this episode again, what shocked me most was the fact that because you're right, she is an outsider. Catherine just doesn't still believe. And she's been sticking to that.
It's stupid. Because if you're not from that culture, it's idiotic. It's dumb. That's why she doesn't believe it. There's no evidence.
There is evidence of. Remember, in the Collins family history book. Now, to be fair, in the other timeline that we know and love, the Collins family history book isn't accurate, but in this timeline, it's very accurate.
Okay, yeah, but she wasn't there. That thing could have been made up.
They're gonna make up the plague.
People were just on a tour.
They're gonna make up the plague.
Sure. Well, yeah. I mean, it might be swamp gas. There could be all sorts of things that are actually, the reason for this, or, a lot of syphilis in the family. And so people are going insane because it was a fad back then. And so what do? They make out, God, damn, dying of syphilis. Oh, no, he didn't. He went in the secret room. He lost the lottery and went insane. Oh, yeah, that sounds better.
To Patrick's credit, he's not wrong, because Catherine even is saying there's just a logical explanation to all this. Not in this episode, but in episodes prior.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say somebody had syphilis. Thank you. I really thought that's where you were going.
No. It's not at the beginning of this arc. As the arc progresses, as 1841 progresses, when Catherine, it's sometime after Morgan tells Catherine about the room, and she's dismissing it, and she goes, "Oh, there's just a logical explanation behind all this," and well,
Gilligan, there's no such thing as ghosts.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's pretty much what she's doing, too.
Yeah, it's just she is a professor on an island of Gilligan's.
Is it... What is Catherine's profession, by the way? Does she have one?
A heroine. She's a heroine on the show. She's there to look pretty and talk reason.
Well, I know that. Yeah, I know that. But I'm sort of wondering if they ever played with the idea of Catherine actually being a professor, in a sense.
No. I mean, look at the 1840. Women had two professions. They not what you're thinking, Jewel. Either just being these completely unthanked, disrespected slaves and milch cows and breeding machines, who are horribly oppressed, or to the manor born princesses who were also horribly oppressed. No, it was not a fun time to be a woman, in this period.
Yeah, especially if you were Melanie and like super thin.
Well, yeah, because back then I think they would have thought something was wrong with you, and it's it's funny, the attitude towards weight kept going back and forth, corseting and all this other stuff, in terms of what was seen as attractive or not.
Yeah.
But just what a terrible, terrible culture we have in some ways, and that is one of them.
My wife is always, how do I look? I'm like, you look nice.
There's a very wise woman, psychologist named Jenny Weiner, once told me, I asked her, I said, what is the proper answer to, do these pants make me look fat? And she gave me the hack. She gave me the right answer. And the right answer, which is true, by the way, is, I think you look gorgeous.
Yeah. see though, here's the thing. My wife will just say, I look like shit. I'm just like, no, you don't. She'll tell me, shut the fuck up.
Oh my God. Cool. She's a lovely woman. She's a wonderful person. And you are blessed for every word that comes out of her mouth.
I absolutely am. But with this episode, I really like just the banter between the brothers.
It's good, man.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it.
And I think Pennock is especially good because this is, I think, the most focused, kind of least theatrically fun character that he was given to play, and he still makes him, it's his most realistic character. It's his most controlled and muted performance because it's the most controlled and muted performer or character.
Yeah.
So Pennock once again just shines, and I wish he got more praise for that.
I would have put Caldecott as Gabriel.
For that, yo.
Oh my God. But I really like Gabriel's character. He's very entertaining and he's fun when he's on screen. Even with that decision when he votes to put the women in, it's like,
yes. Yes.
Yep, it's so entertaining. And later on when he's upstairs, first Morgan scalds him, and then Quentin scalds him.
It's like the hysterical woman in Airplane where she gets slapped and then it pans back. There's this long line of people all waiting to get in their 2 cents.
Now, because they're going to go back, obviously they're going to go to 1680 during this arc, right? So,
oh yeah, I love that episode.
with this episode, and they hold. By the way, they do hold the lottery in this episode. You don't see who gets the slip in this episode. When you watch this episode, watch David Selby, because he's looking like, man, I wish I had more time. Because David Selby's Quentin was the only one trying to find out what was the cause of all this.
He knew he had appendicitis coming. He wasn't going to be there for that. He was getting out of it one way or the other. He didn't have anything to worry about. Except appendicitis.
Yeah. That's was he sick by this episode?
I don't think so. I don't know a lot about appendicitis, thank goodness. But I get the idea it kind of comes on. Yeah, and once it comes on, I don't think you have a mild case of appendicitis. I think when it hits, that's it.
Yeah. So they all actually, Quentin is the first person who reaches in the jar. And then then the rest of them go. But so you don't find out who gets the slip. I love the suspense build toward not only the lottery drawing, but the fact is that they don't show who got the slip by the end of this episode.
That's the perfect cliffhanger.
Yeah,
you got to put a cliffhanger in there somewhere.
Who would okay, from DS9, who would you have who would you have Gul Dukat play
in the 1841 parallel time storyline?
Yeah,
a great question. Well, Morgan, a loud bully.
Yeah.
Come on. He basically is playing Gul Dukat already.
Gul Dukat did nothing wrong. I mean, what?
Nerys. Adonis. He's smooth. He is so smooth for someone with terrible breath, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, what's your favorite scene from this episode?
I did anything involving Gabriel.
Yeah.
Predictably, any episode Chris Pennick's on, it's going to be that. And there's a lot of focus on Gabriel. Pennick gets a lot of great screen time in this. And he's the only kind of dishonest Weasley character in the episode. And so he has the most to do. He's the most unpredictable. And predictable characters are inherently boring. We don't even need to see them. We can just kind of write to Dan Curtis and say, "Dear Dan, this character is going to do this, 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 and this. Love, Patrick." And that's it. And I did that, and it didn't change any of the episodes. But he's a dynamic character. He's capable of change and of suspense, and there is that chance he's going to vote no. That he doesn't.
I really love Morgan in this episode. I love how him and Catherine they are a married couple on the show, and I love how you could tell Morgan actually does love Catherine. And it's a very, even though it's like a small scene up in their bedroom when they get ready to go downstairs, it's very sentimental and it's very cool.
Well, do you still feel that way when he's trying to shoot her?
No, not when he's trying to shoot her. No.
Oh, I've known a lot of married couples.
He doesn't try to shoot her in this episode, though.
No, he's just kind of looking at her, thinking about where are the weak spots, where are the points of her ability. Is her vision based on motion? Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I mean, let's be honest. I don't really trust any Collins with a pistol because none of them can shoot worth shit. None of them.
Except for Barnabas when he doesn't want to, and then he has incredible aim.
Now, did he actually cause Jeremiah's death, or did Angelique assist him? You think?
I think Angelique assisted him, She certainly assisted him when he shot her by being in the way of the musket ball. He shot pretty well that day.
When you go back to 1795 and they say about a duel, and Angelique hears this, Laura Parker's face is like, oh shit. Like she knows it, like, oh no, he can't shoot. I would love to.
I'm sure she thought that when they were arguing and he picked up the pistol that day. Oh no, Barnabas can't shoot me. I'm fine. I'm just gonna stand here. Oh my God.
I almost guarantee you, when they were on Martinique together, there was some sort of shooting contest, and she watched him miss like every one of them, and she's like, huh.
Every night I would think to myself, will I live? And you are still alive. It's like Zondor and Magda.
Yeah.
Sitting in a tree.
Absolutely. For this episode, I love how they explained Julia's absence. She was in the village. And again, I just love the chemistry between the cast. Very, very good. And a very, very well written and direct episode. The sound only cuts out very briefly, but you can still hear them. It's audible. You can still hear them. I shouldn't say cut out.
It's sort of hear Keith Prentice.
Well, we can all hear Keith Prentice.
We can still hear him echoing now from New York. Would Magda have been able to rig the lottery?
Magda? Yeah. She would have. She would have found a way.
That's why I love Magda.
You know who? Again, another person who would have found a way to rig the lottery would have been Cork.
Gort?
Cork.
Oh, Quark.
Yeah. Cork.
Oh, yeah. I mean, talking about a power couple, Quark and Magda.
Absolutely.
Half of DS9 would have been sold in the middle of the night. Cisco would wonder, where's my desk? Where are the doors? They sold the doors to somebody.
His baseball would have been missing. Like, what?
His couch.
His couch.
He would have awakened on the floor. I went to bed in a bed. Where is it?
Jake, where's your bed?
Court came in the night and said he had to borrow it.
Absolutely.
He said, what? And you let him? No etouffee for you.
I know you're coming on tomorrow night with Butch to do Warlock with us. Are you good for Sunday night for another episode of this?
Yes, but what I'm wondering about is Looker.
We're gonna probably squeeze that in next week. So
you're gonna have a very, very, very disappointed fan if you don't squeeze it in.
I'm going to squeeze it in, but I'm going to squeeze it in. Look, between reading The Great Dark Shadows Daybook Unbound, I will squeeze it in. I promise.
Get to squeezing, my friend, because otherwise, Miss Gallagher is she's just gonna be sledge-o-matic.
And they never found Jules Sains' body ever again.
Be the baby face, Jewel. Don't be the heel.
I
pile driver with your name on it.
Now, Jerry the King Lawler style pile driver, like Andy Kaufman.
Like fake?
Yeah.
Well, I would hope they're all fake. My God, do you realize the lawsuits they would have if those things were real? I got news for you, Jewel. It's not real. Real.
I went to, now there's a difference between going to like a WWE live event and like a local VFW wrestling event.
Oh, sure.
The wrestlers are more drunk. Anyway.
You're talking about the nation's finest, best trained, most gentlemanly and disciplined athletes.
Listen, I was talking to a wrestler, or at least 3 wrestlers at that event. And
at that event. Okay. So
at a VFW, and you could smell the alcohol. Anyway.
It was rubbing alcohol
What?
that used in the vigorous massages to get them ready, like
Boy.
like you see Tor Johnson getting in Ed Wood.
Oh my god. Is there anything you want to add for this episode, man?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Looka.
Absolutely. I am too. We'll do Looker next week on a Saturday. Me, you, and Butch. The three of us will do it.
All right.
But tomorrow, Warlock. Sunday, another episode of AT41 Parallel Time. Patrick will be back Sunday night.
This is
late.
this Sunday. Yes.
Yeah, this Sunday. Sorry.
Tomorrow. Who's in Warlock? Tell me a little bit about Warlock.
Okay, Warlock stars not Henry Fonda, but who's the one actor? Oh my god, I just was thinking about his name. Oh shit. Okay, Henry Fonda co-stars in it. Anthony Quinn's in it. And by the way, Anthony Quinn and Henry Fonda were both in the Oxbow incident together, in the movie The Oxbow Incident together. This stars Richard Widmark.
Oh, God, I was hoping you were going to say Richard Mulligan.
And,
okay, Richard.
The guy who played Bones is in this movie.
DeForest Kelly.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
all right. That's all I need to know.
And it's about this gang, this cattle. I don't want to call him a cattle baron. He's sort of like a farmer, if you will. But they commit crimes behind the law's back. And they're very suspect and very dirty. And you find out how dirty they all really, their leader more is. And Richard Widmark's, the person who's playing Richard Widmark's brother in this is actually Dennis Hopper. A very, very young Dennis Hopper.
Yeah.
But it's a really interesting movie. I picked this movie because, again, it's a movie that it has law, but it's a town that has to find law too.
Okay.
So
I'm there.
It's one of my and really, I think this movie is the movie where Sergio Leone sort of saw Henry Fonda as Frank in a way, from Once Upon a Time in the West. I think
movie. That's one of my favorite westerns.
Yeah, it's my favorite western. But yeah, and when you watch this movie, watch Fonda's. He gives these he's not a heel in this movie, but there's some heel tones there in his character.
Okay.
But
who's the baby face?
The baby face in this movie is Richard Widmark.
Okay.
I'm not saying Henry Fonda's character isn't a baby face. He is. But there's sometimes the way he talks and totes, he's sort of shades of gray for me in this movie.
Okay. Is there a Santo?
No, but Anthony Quinn in this movie is really, really sinister at times.
Would Santo have been a good character to introduce into Dark Shadows?
Santo. Who's Santo? I'm sorry.
The masked Mexican wrestler.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Santo.
Yeah, he would have been as working for Count Patofa.
Okay.
Because here's why, and I've talked about this with what really Patofe is an inspiration of. Patofe is the Dark Shadows writers, in my opinion, paying tribute to one specific character, the Shadow. Count Patofe has agents. The Shadow has agents. Count Patofe comes in under a different name and identity. The Shadow never revealed his identity.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and like half the time, Count Patofe's Kent Allard, and half the time he's Lamont Cranston.
Yep, absolutely. And
but I preferred Kent Allard because Lamont is a big dummy. Well,
did you ever read The Shadow Laughs?
No, because the Shadow wasn't a cat in that, and so it was an inaccurate portrait of the true essence of the character. Because I know you love that book.
Book can rot in hell. Anyway, but in The Shadow Laughs, now in the previous book, Walter B. Gibson had revealed the Shadow as Lamont Cranston, but in The Shadow Laughs, he corrects this. Lamont Cranston is returning from a trip, and he's hearing around town that everyone thought he was in town. And then, so he gets the sense that somebody is posing as him around town, but then he catches his own servant in a lie, and now he realizes, oh my God, not only has someone been posing as me around town, but in my own home. And he comes face to face with the Shadow. It's Lamont Cranston talks to Lamont Cranston is the chapter, and the Shadow says Lamont Cranston gets his name called, and he says this. He goes, "You called my name," and he keeps asking the Shadow his name, and when the Shadow goes, "You keep asking me my name. Tell me what's you." He says something to the effect of, "I didn't call your name. I wasn't calling you Lamont Cranston. I was calling my own name." And he pulls back the cloak and the black hat, and there is standing the very double of Lamont Cranston, voice and all. And it's the Shadow recruiting the real Lamont Cranston as an agent, is what it is. I mean, that's what
my suspicions are confirmed.
So really, really great chapter. The book isn't great, but the chapter is. The Shadow Laughs. So.
Okay.
I won't say the book's great, but that chapter alone is worth it. Because again, Gibson is getting himself out of a situation he put himself in the last book. So.
Okay.
Which is really cool. But again, thank you, brother, for joining me. I had a ball.
Thank you for asking.
Absolutely. You're welcome anytime, man. But tomorrow night, Warlock, Sunday night, me and Patrick will be back for another episode of 1841 Parallel Time.
Find out how the lottery went.
That's right. We hit the Mega Millions, or we're stuck in it, or we're stuck in a room. Link to where you can get the Dark Shadows Day book Unbound will be in the description box. Guys, go pick that book up. It's very, very good. Great job so far, Patrick.
Love the readings.
They will continue sometime this weekend. Have a good night, brother.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.